Good morning, friends, and welcome to Wake Up in the Word for a Friday. Can't believe we've made it to Friday. Grab a good cup of coffee. We're going to read about the fall of Babylon the Great this morning. As we're there in Revelation chapter 18, I do want to say thank you to Matt and Libby and Addison and Cooper for hosting us this week. After Sue's successful surgery on Monday, this has been a place for recovery, and we needed every day of it. Can't believe we've already made it to Friday, but thanks, folks, and thanks to all those doctors and nurses and everybody else that's been working with Sue through this process. We just see God's hand in all of it. We'd appreciate your prayers for her continued healing. But now we're back into Revelation chapter 18 today, and we have been reading about Babylon the Great and how it has really upset God. And this picture that we started seeing unfold in chapter 17 of a system that perhaps brings together all kinds of different religions, but seems like with one purpose: to support this new world order, a new sexual order that is completely immoral in God's eyes, and to throw away all his commandments and regulations for some kind of new ideas that are just repugnant to him. We see this developing in the 17th chapter, and now we see in the 18th chapter his judgment falling on a particular city. Because if you go back to the origins of this, the ancient kingdom of Babylon, the first one that tried to say, we will create a man-made organization that will rule the world. And from Babylon came not only that idea of conquering other nations, but the spread of these wicked pagan religions at the same time. And what's funny is how we look around today and the aspects of that ancient pagan religion, the same one that the people of God fought all through Israel's history in their own land, that seems to be popping up around us all around the world. It seems to be everywhere. It seems that Satan's agenda is alive and well these days. So when we talk about the destruction of a particular system, a materialism, a secularism, or whatever, as I'm noticing some of the commentators are calling it, is there not going to be the judgment of a particular city or maybe even cities in the same way that God judged ancient Babylon? Because yes, he didn't just judge the system, he judged the city, and prophetically in the Old Testament talked about what would happen to that ancient city, this tremendous capital that tried to rule the world, and how it would be completely decimated and only wild animals would live in the ruins. No one would want to go live there anymore. You want some good information on that? Go read in Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell, some of the collection of information that can be brought together about the judgment of ancient Babylon. It seems like modern day Babylon, the great Babylon in the end, is going to be judged as Jesus returns to this earth. Well, let's go ahead and read what the world does to react to this fall of the great Babylon. So we're going to pick up in verse number 9 of chapter 18, and let's just read to the end. The kings of the earth who've committed sexual immorality and lived luxuriously with her, with Babylon the Great, will weep and mourn over her when they see the smoke of her burning. They will stand far off in fear of her torment, saying, Woe, woe, the great city Babylon, the mighty city, for in a single hour your judgment has come. Wow, here we go again. Second time. Not just one day now, but in 1 hour your judgment has come. Verse 11, the merchants of the earth will also weep and mourn over her, because no one buys their merchandise any longer. Merchandise of gold, silver, precious stones and pearls, fine fabrics of linen, purple, silk, and scarlet, all kinds of fragrant wood products, objects of ivory, objects of expensive wood, brass, iron, and marble, cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, and frankincense, wine, olive oil, fine wheat, flour, and grain, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages, and slaves, human lives. Wow, what a list there. A list of just about everything you would discover in modern day commerce. the wonderful, precious stuff that we think we need and willing to spend lots of money on, right down to the end where it mentions slavery. Now, hold on now. There aren't any cities in the world today that have slaves. Now, are there? Oh my goodness. That which we thought was defeated. Women in America, we fought a war to defeat slavery back in the 1800s, didn't we? And yet today, the specter of human trafficking and slavery for even economic purposes is alive and well all over the earth, promoted by this system espoused by the great Babylon of the end. Verse 14. The fruit you craved has left you. All your splendor and glamorous things are gone. They will never find them again. The merchants of these things who became rich from her will stand far off, in fear of her torment, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, dressed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls. For in a single hour such fabulous wealth was destroyed. Okay, hold on. Here is again, this city is going to be destroyed, judged by God. It's going to happen in a day, and now for the second time, we've got that it's going to happen in an hour. All right. It says, and every shipmaster, seafarer, and sailors, and all who do business by sea stood far off as they watched the smoke from her burning, and they kept crying out, Who is like the great city? They threw dust on their heads and kept crying out, weeping and mourning. Boy, there's a destruction of a city coming that's really going to grieve these merchants from around the world. Let's go on. Look at their lament. Woe, woe, the great city, where all those who have ships on the sea became rich from her wealth. For in a single hour, there's that hour again. Wow. She was destroyed. Rejoice over her, heaven, and you saints, apostles, and prophets, because God has executed your judgment on her. Verse 21. Then a mighty angel picked up a stone like a large millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, In this way Babylon, the great city, will be thrown down violently and never be found again. The sound of harpists and musicians, flutists and trumpeters will never be heard in you again. No craftsman of any trade will ever be found in you again. The sound of a mill will never be heard in you again. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. And the voice of a groom and bride will never be heard in you again. All this will happen because your merchants were the nobility of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. And the blood of prophets and saints and of all those slaughtered on earth was found in you. As we close this chapter, one thing is obvious. Babylon the Great is up for destruction. Yes, God's planning to destroy this wicked system that really hurts people beyond measure. But he's also going to do something that I think this passage makes clear. That judgment, just as was the case with ancient Babylon, that judgment is going to fall on a particular city or maybe even cities that fit this description. Now, who is God talking about here? Is it a city we can identify? Is it one that we can see deserves this kind of judgment? You know, tomorrow when I do my typical Saturday countdown to his coming, which is a longer video than our 10-minute devotions, I'm going to get out on a limb and hand the guy behind me the saw. And I'm going to talk to you about a particular city that I think fits this description and how it's facing the judgment of God. And we're going to look at the things that this great Babylonian system right now being played out around the world in front of our eyes. We're going to see how this system is coming to a swift end one day under the hand of God's judgment. So, friends, as we go to this weekend to get ready to go worship with God's people on the Lord's Day and just have some time with family and friends to celebrate all the goodness of God in our lives and get ready for the Christmas season and get it in full gear this weekend, we can keep looking up, because no, all this wickedness that's happening around us is not going to continue to expand. One day God's going to say, that's enough. The cup of his judgment will be full, and he will return to make an end of all this mess. Well, that's a good thing to be looking forward to today on a Friday as we wake up in God's Word. Hey, God bless you. Worship with God's people this week, and I'll see you next Monday as we wake up in God's Word.